Hi, I'm John Paul McFarland with HR Insight. Someone once said, the one common experience of all humanity is the challenge of problems. As supervisors and managers, you get a lot of problems to solve. You can say that that's your job description. I'm really excited for today's video because we're talking about problem solving, step by step, technique by technique, so you can walk away with a toolkit that helps you solve problems faster, smarter, and more effectively. Whether you're a brand new supervisor or a seasoned leader looking to sharpen your edge, this video is for you. I want to tell you about a manager named Sarah. She ran a mid-sized distribution center for a regional retail company. On the surface, everything looked fine. Shipments were going out, numbers were close to target, and employees were showing up. But she kept getting complaints that some orders were arriving damaged. Her first instinct was to blame the shipping carrier. That's reasonable, right? So she switched carriers, but complaints continued. She then blamed the warehouse floor staff. So she added extra packaging to the process. The complaints still continued. It wasn't until she slowed down, followed the problem upstream, step by step, and got her team involved in the investigation that they discovered the real culprit. A single forklift with a slightly misaligned tine was imperceptibly puncturing some of the boxes during pallet transfer, a problem that had been hiding in plain sight. Sarah spent weeks solving the symptoms before she identified the actual problem. The story isn't unique to Sarah. It plays out in warehouses, hospitals, tech companies, and other offices every day. And it highlights one of the most critical skills you can develop as a leader: why problem solving matters. Problems are simply a byproduct of operating in a dynamic, human-driven workplace. Equipment wears out, people have conflicts, processes change, and markets shift overnight. That's just business. What matters is your ability to recognize problems early and resolve them effectively. And your problem-solving skills just don't affect your team. They directly shape your reputation, your credibility, and your career. Leaders who solve problems well get noticed. They get promoted, and they get called when it matters most. On the flip side, leaders who ignore problems, rush to the wrong solution, or get stuck in analysis paralysis get noticed too, just not in the way you want. So let's talk about how to do this right. Before we dive into a step-by-step process, here's a mindset shift that changes everything. You don't have to solve every problem by yourself. Some leaders, particularly new ones, feel like asking for help signals weakness. It doesn't. It actually signals wisdom. The attitude should be, I don't care where the correct answers come from, as long as we get them. Here are 4 powerful resources to consider before you dig in. Ask. Talk to your manager, peer supervisors, HR specialists, or safety professionals. Different vantage points surface things you simply can't see from your position. Involve your team. This one is massively underutilized. Your employees are right there in the middle of the work every day. They see things you don't. And when you invite them into a problem-solving process, something interesting happens. They feel valued, they engage more deeply, and they take ownership of the solution. Amazon famously uses what they call working backward sessions, where the frontline employees are part of defining the problem before any solution is even considered. Build on what worked before. You're not the first person to face most of the problems you'll encounter. Look at how similar organizations, teams, or individuals have handled comparable issues and adapt from there. Delegate. Not every problem needs to land on your desk. Matching the right person to the right problem, someone with the knowledge, skills, and capacity to handle it, is itself a superpower. You've probably heard the phrase, teamwork makes the dream work. I like to say delegation makes the dream work. The input you gather from others opens doors. It sparks new ideas, reveals possibilities you hadn't considered, and creates connections between solutions you never would have found working alone. All right, now let's get into the framework. 6 steps, simple to remember, powerful in practice. Step 1, identify the problem. This sounds obvious, but if you misidentify the problem, every solution you apply is aimed at the wrong target. The prolific American inventor Charles Kettering famously said, "A problem well stated is a problem now solved." Remember Sarah from our opening story? She spent weeks solving the symptom, damaged packages, before she identified the actual problem, a misaligned forklift. Here's what to do. Start by observing what's actually happening, how often, when and where, what are the consequences, and don't jump to conclusions. Watch first. Then define the scope. How widespread is it? Who's affected? How serious? Stick to the facts, not assumptions. What do you know to be true? And ask questions, lots of them. The more questions you ask, the clearer the picture becomes. Step 2, prioritize. Not every problem is a 5-alarm fire. Part of being an effective supervisor is knowing which problems demand your immediate attention and which ones can wait or be delegated. Ask yourself, is this big and consequential or minor and manageable? Is it urgent or can it reasonably wait? Is this unusual and unfamiliar, requiring close attention, or routine and well understood? Can I live with the consequence for a while, or does this need to be resolved right now? Top tier priority problems get your immediate focus. Lower priority items go on the to-do list or get delegated. Simple sorting, but it keeps your mind from spending the best energy on the wrong things. Step 3, gather information. Once you've identified and prioritized the problem, it's time to learn everything you can about it. Dig into the details. Get advice from colleagues, subject matter experts, and others who have dealt with similar issues. Look for underlying causes. Every problem has at least one, often more. Determine the full extent of the issue and watch for related or secondary problems that might be lurking underneath. Here's a real-world example of what happens when this step is skipped. For years, stomach ulcers were widely blamed on stress and lifestyle. Then researchers Barry Marshall and Robin Warren showed that many ulcers were actually caused by bacteria. Treatment then changed, and a condition that people thought they just had to live with could often be cured. Step 4, generate possible solutions. This is where things get fun. Push yourself to generate multiple possible solutions before committing to any of them. Here are a few approaches. Ask what-if questions. Follow the answers wherever they may lead. Draw on past experience. What worked before with similar problems and what hasn't. Brainstorm with your team. This is one of the most effective techniques available to you. Gather your people, set the stage, let the ideas flow freely, no filtering, no judgment, no idea is off limits. The goal is volume and creativity. One seemingly wild idea often sparks the breakthrough. At Pixar, when a movie was struggling, they didn't just leave the director alone to deal with the problem themselves. They brought in top storytellers into a brain trust session, a blunt, high-trust brainstorming meeting built around honest feedback. One of those sessions helped rescue Toy Story 2 when it was veering off course. The film was reworked, released, and went on to earn about $500 million worldwide. Keep an open mind. The best solution might not look like the most obvious one. Step 5, select an option. Now it's time to choose and calculate consequences. For each option, ask, what does the future look like if we implement this? Work through the downstream effects before you commit. Pick your top candidates. Narrow down to your best 2 or 3, then choose the strongest from there. Test it on a small scale if possible. A pilot or limited trial can reveal issues before you roll it out broadly. Present the solution to the people who will be affected and involved. This step matters than more supervisors realize because people will support what they help shape. Then implement it. Monitor it closely. Don't assume it's working just because it's been launched. Then document the whole thing. The problems, the processes, the solution. If the problem ever resurfaces, and that often happens, you'll have a roadmap. Step 6, follow up and encourage feedback. Verify the problem is actually resolved, not just silenced temporarily. Assess whether the solution holds up over time. Anticipate related problems that might emerge. Listen to feedback from everyone involved and adjust the solution if needed. In 2012, Adobe scrapped its old employee performance appraisal system and replaced it with ongoing manager-employee check-ins. But they didn't just replace it and hope for the best. After launching the check-in system, the company kept collecting employee and manager feedback to see how it was working in practice. The feedback later led Adobe to redesign the system with more structure, better tools, and easier ways to give real-time feedback. This is a reminder that a new system is only as good as the loop you build to test and improve it. Solutions are seldomly perfect on the first try. Build into the process the plan, do, check, act system. Okay, that's the 6-step framework. It gets you pretty far, but some problems demand more creativity and more thinking. Here are some of the most powerful techniques in the toolkit. 5 whys. This technique comes from Toyota's production system, and it's one of the most simple techniques you'll ever use. The idea is when a problem occurs, simply ask why it happened. Take that answer and ask why again. Repeat 5 times. By the 5th why, you've typically reached the root cause. Here's a quick example Taiichi Ono at Toyota gives about a machine that stopped working. Why did the machine stop? There was an overload and the fuse blew. Why was there an overload? The bearing was not sufficiently lubricated. Why was it not lubricated? The lubrication pump was not pumping sufficiently. Why was it not pumping sufficiently? The shaft of the pump was worn and rattling. Why was the shaft worn out? There was no strainer attached and the metal scraps got in. Without repeatedly asking why, managers would simply replace the fuse or pump and the failure would recur. The specific number 5 is not the point. Rather, it is to keep asking until the root cause is reached and eliminated. Sometimes the best way forward is to flip the question upside down. If your problem is low team productivity, instead of asking, how do we increase productivity, ask, how could we make productivity worse? It's counterintuitive. By thinking through everything that would take your results, you often discover the exact levers you need to improve them. Another reversal technique, instead of diagnosing why there's a problem, start by imagining the problem is solved. What does that look like? How does it work? Work backwards from the solution to find the path forward. I admit I have never used this method, but in their book, Working Backwards, Colin Bayer and Bill Carr, 2 former Amazon employees, say most of Amazon's major products and initiatives since 2004 were created through the working backwards process, whose key idea it is to start by defining the customer experience and then work backwards to what should be built. Next is visual approaches. Not every problem can be solved by talking them through or making a list. Sometimes you need to draw it out. A fishbone diagram, also called an Ishikawa or cause and effect diagram, maps all potential causes of a problem visually. It's a staple in manufacturing, healthcare, and project management. Flowcharts help you see where processes break down or get bottlenecked. Spider diagram maps out related issues and consequences radiating from a central problem. The actual act of drawing out the problem often reveals connections you couldn't see when it was all inside your head. Here are a few more problem-solving techniques in rapid-fire succession. Analogy. Draw parallels to problems in other areas of life or work. How did you solve something similar at home, in a past job, or in a completely different context? Reframe. Changing the wording of the problem changes how you see it. Why won't this employee perform becomes what barriers are preventing this employee from performing. Suddenly it's a different problem with different solutions. Break it down. Large complex problems become manageable when you break them down into smaller parts and tackle each one. Simplest solution first. During World War II, military engineers were stumped trying to sharpen searchlight electrodes. A private with zero engineering background suggested using a pencil sharpener. It worked. Sometimes the most straightforward answer is the right one. Sleep on it. Your brain doesn't stop working when you walk away from a problem. Give it space. Some of the best insights come after a good night's sleep precisely because your subconscious keeps processing. This one works for me a lot. I've gone to bed with a problem on my mind knowing that in the morning I'll have a solution or I'll know what I need to do. In the wee hours of the morning, usually still lying in bed, when it's quiet, the answer will come to me. Take a walk. Physical movement literally changes brain chemistry. Walking increases creative thinking. So when you're stuck, step away. I do this one a lot too. Even experienced managers fall into traps. Here are the most common roadblocks and how to avoid them. Assumptions. Just because something always worked a certain way doesn't mean that's what's going to happen now. Challenge your assumptions constantly. Question what you think you already know. Rushing. The pressure to solve problems fast is real, but grabbing the first available solution often means solving the wrong problem or the right problem in the wrong way. Sometimes you just need to slow down. Fear of mistakes. Some supervisors become so risk-averse that they never commit to a solution. But problem solving requires action, and action carries risk. Being wrong occasionally is part of the process. The goal is to be wrong small and early so you can correct course. Being too logical. Logical is essential, but it's not sufficient. The best problem solvers balance analytical rigor with intuition and creativity. Some of the most elegant solutions don't look logical on the surface. Denial. Pretending a problem doesn't exist doesn't make it smaller, it makes it bigger. If you can see it, address it, even when it's uncomfortable. Lack of confidence. If you approach a problem believing you can't solve it, you've already lost. A positive can-do mindset isn't just motivational fluff, it's functionally necessary for effective problem solving. Giving up. This one deserves some real talk. Big stubborn problems can be exhausting, but as Albert Einstein once noted, persistence, staying with a problem longer, is often the differentiating factor. Not genius, not luck. It's just work. Staying in the room, as they say. Some problems are stubborn. They get patched, seem to go away, and then re-emerge months later. If you're dealing with recurring problems, it usually means one thing: the root cause hasn't been addressed. When that happens, Dig deeper. What's the real problem? Have you been solving symptoms all along? How often does it occur and under what circumstances? Where does it happen? When does it happen? And when doesn't it happen? That contrast is telling. Who's involved? What are the training gaps, process failures, or behavioral patterns at play here? And what does your data from past occurrences tell you? Take a fresh look with fresh eyes. Bring someone with a new perspective that hasn't been staring at the problem. Problems are an inescapable part of leadership. They're not a sign that something is wrong with you or your team. They're a sign that you're operating in a real dynamic, normal environment. What matters is how you meet them. The supervisors who master problem solving don't have fewer problems than anyone else. They just have a better process for handling them, and the confidence that comes from knowing they have the tools to work through whatever comes their way. As long as you draw breath, your problems won't stop. It's best that we settle that in our minds right now. But now, with the support of your team and the full range of techniques we've explored together, you have a framework to fix them step by step. And here's the mindset I want you to leave with. Every problem is a door. On the other side of a well-solved problem is a stronger team, a better process, and a more resilient organization. And a leader who has just proved once again that they're exactly the right person for the job.
John Paul here. If you like this video, check out the HR Insight YouTube channel where we have more videos just like this. Make sure to click subscribe so you get notifications.